performed studies on people with various mental illnesses
Yeah.
and the intake of so-called micronutrients, which I believe are
Yes.
various minerals and vitamins.
Yeah.
However, for most of us who can't really participate in these studies, you generally recommending the adoption of the so-called Mediterranean diet, if I
Yeah.
understood that correctly.
Yeah.
A part of me is always kind of happy to hear that because I imagine I can pounce on pepperoni pizza and pasta carbonara like a hungry Yorkshire Terrier from now on. But that's probably not exactly what you have in mind, is it?
Not exactly. Well, not just that. Um, so the research that I've been doing is on giving people vitamins and minerals in a pill form, and this is and not again, it's not something that I invented. It was just something that I just happened to be, I think, in the right place at the right time. So it just, when I was doing my PhD in Alberta, Canada, my PhD supervisor, Bonnie Kaplan, who I mentioned before, I co-wrote The Better Brain with, she was approached by families from Southern Alberta, Canada, who were treating themselves with nutrients and they were getting well and staying well. And the concept of giving people a broad spectrum of nutrients, there's no special nutrient. I'm not here to say you should take zinc for ADHD or vitamin D for depression. Your brain needs all of the nutrients in combination in order for it to do what it needs to do. And so that's what we're doing is we're giving all the essential vitamins and minerals that you would typically get out of your food and seeing whether or not the symptoms of ADHD or anxiety or depression reduce in intensity. And they do for many people, but not everybody. I mean, nothing ever treats everybody because there's always, they're complex, these issues. And for some people, it's not food. That's not the reason why they are struggling. It could be something completely different in their environment, or it could be a bit of genetics or other things. But we gave these vitamins and minerals to people in experimental form. We compared it to placebo, and we found that more people in the micronutrient groups were showing improvement in their symptoms. So that gives us a lot of confidence that what we've observed is a real phenomenon because it's not just a placebo effect, which is often what people will say, that it's because when you enter a clinical trial, often people get better because of lots of reasons. One is that we're caring for them. So we're giving them, kind of like when you go see your psychotherapist, that person presumably shows empathy, care for you and your problems, and that in itself is therapeutic. And without them having to even say anything much at all, that's challenging you in any way. But that care is important, and so we of course give that when people enter clinical trials. And so then you need to show that the effect is greater than that effect of that sort of that therapeutic environment. So we've shown that, and it's also being replicated now by other labs. So that gives us even more confidence because you need to have replication because it could be totally something else that might be going on of why you might see an effect in one study, but not necessarily see that effect again observed in another study. So replication has happened now. So that's really good. So again, more confidence. But the bottom line here is that when you give people vitamins and minerals, we should all be asking the question of, well, why don't you get them out of your food? Because that's essentially that's where they are. And so that's where you have to then acknowledge what I was talking about before, which is that our food environment has changed the most dramatically in our history. So what has happened to our food environment? And that's what you should care about, and your listeners should care about, is that we have replaced real whole foods, fruits and vegetables, your nuts, your legumes, your lentils, etc. Just these real whole foods that our ancestors have been eating thousands and thousands of years with these chemicals that are made in a lab that do not contain the vitamins and minerals and any really, uh, you know, any sort of major amount. So if you were to compare the vitamin and mineral content of an ultra processed diet, what we call the Western diet, which is really high in those addictive substances that I talked about before, sugar has got no nutrients in it unless you consume it in its real form. So if you were to have maple syrup from a tree, and real maple syrup, not adulterated, not this crappy stuff flavored maple syrup that you can buy in the supermarket, the real stuff, or the sugar cane, then you would be consuming that sugar with some nutrients that came from that tree or that plant. But sugar that we have now in our ultra processed products is simply, you've taken the sugar from the sugar cane and you've stripped it away and gotten rid of all of the nutrients, and you've brought it down to its very fine, simple form of the stuff that makes it taste sweet. And you've eliminated all the nutrients that you would normally consume that sugar with. So that's happening over and over and over again in the foods that we're eating as ultra processed foods. So they are depleted in vitamins and minerals. And so that's our point, is that we are giving people those vitamins and minerals that they would have gotten if they were eating real whole foods. Now, there's some caveats here, because there are probably some people who need more nutrients than what they can get out of their food. They might have genetic differences that mean that their metabolic reactions are slowed as a consequence of genetic differences. And so you can speed that up by giving more vitamins and minerals, and you can normalize metabolic reactions by giving more vitamins and minerals. And those vitamins and minerals are essential for making those chemicals that we know are so important, things like dopamine or serotonin. Well, you can make those naturally with making sure that the body has everything it needs in order to make them. But so we've gone from a place where we've taken the vitamins and minerals out of our food. You can't then make serotonin as easily as you used to be able to do that. And then we give a drug like an antidepressant to try to increase the amount of serotonin that's available. So wow, right? Like you're going from a place of eating real food and our ancestors having really low levels of these problems to, let's take the vitamins and minerals out of the food as this amazing social experiment that we've done. And then we can correct it by giving us the pharmaceutical drugs. Wow. Is that the kind of culture you want to live in? It's not the one that I want to live in. That's kind of, we've ended up being, creating all these different addictions. So the fact that we gave the vitamins and minerals and people got better means that there's something wrong with the food environment.